Hello everyone, happy Monday. Introducing Ken, the service manager and lead technician here at RMD. Today, Ken will be demonstrating the assembly process of the Taylor C712 soft serve freezer. All questions are welcome. Ken, take it away.
First, going to start off with identification of your parts on your machine. This is a pump assembly for this unit here. This is the pump housing, a piston, a valve cap, feed tube, mixed inlet fitting, and your O-rings and valve gasket. Next, we're going to move over to the freezer cylinders itself. This is the drive shaft. This is a beater assembly, your draw valves, scraper blades. This is beater shoes here, prime plugs for the machine, the door gaskets, and the draw handles. And last is your freezer door here. So first thing we're going to go over with is your cleaning brushes, the purpose of each brush and the usage of it. Using your brushes to clean your machine, you will get your machine cleaned faster and cleaner versus using a wash towel. Your blue brush here is to clean the draw valve ports on your freezer door. This would be done in a sink of soap water. The small blue brush is specific for running down through the prime plug ports on the door. The big blue brush is for cleaning the parts themselves in the sink, your beater assemblies, all your items. It has the bristles to be able to get down into the grooves and clean well. Also, when we sanitize and clean the machine up here in the hopper wall. The black brush is a specific brush, and we want to use the black brush to clean the drive shaft area. You look down the center of this barrel, there's a center hole where the drive shaft is going to go into. We'll lubricate this shaft with this special Taylor lube, and when you take it apart and clean it, that shaft's going to have gray lubricant on it. And that gray lubricant is for the metal particles that do wear inside there. So we want to take the black brush and run it down inside the cylinder, down to that center hole. Just going to push it in, pull it out, and kind of scrub it a little bit, and then take a clean towel and wipe off the brush with the clean towel. The brush will get black, so that's why I identified it a black versus a blue bristle brush. On the ones that have pump machines, as like this is a flexible shaft brush that's going to go down through the mixed feed tube and be able to clean all the way through, and as you see, it will come out the other end. So now we're able to clean any milkstone buildup inside that mixed feed tube, and that's specific to this brush only. Then we have the key ring brush set, and this is just basically for any of your ports inside your pump parts themselves that you'd be able to go in and clean. We'll go through the pump itself as far as the importance, but actually clean any of these holes inside of here in your pump, and that's your cleaning brushes. So first thing we're going to do is start the assembly of the unit. We're going to start with the drive shaft. And on your drive shaft, you'll see a wear mark on the shaft. This is the area where that shaft is running between the metal and metal of the shaft itself. So that's where we want the lubricant to be. Around the drive shaft. And then we also want to get some lubricant up into this upper groove right here. That's where our boot seal is going to snap into place. Take the boot seal. The boot seal can go on either way. And bring that down. It's going to snap into place. Then we want to take a little extra lubricant and just enclose the opening between the boot seal and the shaft itself. And we're going to take the drive shaft, and that's going to run down the center of the barrel. And as you push it in, you're going to kind of push and turn, and you'll feel it snap into place. The next item that's going to go into the cylinder is the beater assembly and the scraper blades. Purpose of the beater assembly is to scrape off the frozen product off the cylinder walls inside the machine. And as the beater is turning inside there, the blades will extend out, and that's what does the scraping on the cylinder walls. We have your beater shoes, and these will snap onto the front of the beater. They are specific to side. And all this is doing is protecting the beater inside the cylinder so we don't get any scraping. You just twist it and turn it and you'll see it lock into place. Then we're going to assemble the door assembly. So when you're cleaning your machine, you want to take all your O-rings off so we're able to clean underneath the O-ring and in the groove for any bacteria that could possibly build up. So you have two draw valves that are identical. One is separate. So the one that is separate from the other two is going to go into the center port, and it has a different style O-ring on it. And what that's going to do is keep your flavors from crossing in your cylinders. Take your O-rings, put them into place. All these O-rings here are all the same size. This is our center draw valve. This is called the H-style O-ring. You have to just be a little forceful with getting it down into place. The O-ring sits there. The other O-ring sits into that place. Then we need to lubricate our draw valves. So we're going to go around the valve, all around the O-rings. And as you put your lubricant on your draw valve, you want to have enough lube to where when you place the valve into the port of the door that we have a little bit of a bead of lubricant around that top of that door. If you don't have that bead, it may be too sparingly on your lubricant, and over your duration of run time could dry the draw valve out. Then our center draw valve. Little note, as placing this draw valve into the door, when you push this in, kind of twist it and turn it at the same time, so we don't have a tendency to push that H-style O-ring up and it will get cut onto the spout of the door. So we just assembled all the draw valves. The next thing we want to do is the prime plugs. Again, we have the small O-rings on these. And as of always, when the machine's assembled and any product leaking out of the door, if it's coming out of the top of the prime plug area, it's going to be the top O-ring. If it's coming out of the bottom port of the door, it would be the bottom O-ring. And that's the same, stands the same for your draw valves. And then lube both your prime plug O-rings. And again, kind of twist and turn and push at the same time. So we've assembled the door at this point. The next item on the back of the door is going to be our door gaskets. So the door gasket has two sides to the gasket. One is a rounded concave side, dish side. The other side is a more flat side. So the dish side of the door gasket is going to go up against the plastic. And it actually is made and molded to snap into place. If you have the gasket on inside out or backwards, it will not stay in place as we put the door onto the machine. Last item is a sleeve bearing. This slides down the trombone of the door all the way up to the hub, and it's going to protect the door assembly itself from the beater drive shaft rubbing against anything and doing any damage and wear. These bearings can be put on backwards, but if they get put on backwards, you will not be able to get the parts onto the machine. We also have our hand screws. So we have two different sizes hand screws, a long and a short. The long hand screws will go on the top of the door, the short will go on the bottom. So let's take these and place them over here. Take the door with everything assembled, run it into place. And then I'm going to hold the door up against the machine until I at least get two of the hand screws started. That way, if the door does come off or one won't fall off, and we won't break our seals with the door gaskets. And then placing your hand screws, you always want to snug them down in a crisscross pattern so we get that door centered onto the machine. If you were to favor one side of the left side of the machine and crank these all the way down, it would pitch the door over, and then the door may not seal correctly, and then once you get your product into it, it would leak. Just hand tight on your hand screws. And the last items that we're going to put onto the door assembly is the draw handles. On your draw handle, you have a draw rate adjustment screw right here. So this is to regulate the volume of product that you would dispense out of the machine at a given rate. Everything in the machine works at an even rate. This setting should be between 5 to 7.5 ounces in 10 seconds. And you would back this screw out to slow the rate down, or screw it in to make it go faster. On your assembly of your draw handles, it does not matter if I go from left to right or right to left. I just want to take the center fork of the handle, and I'm going to saddle the pin inside the draw valve, and take the keeper pin and slide it through. Get everything locked into place. Everything checks good. So the next item that we're going to move to is our pump assembly. This is a very important item on your machine. This pump here is what's actually going to deliver your product from your liquid product in the top of the machine to into the barrel for your frozen product to dispense out. So if we have any problems assembly with this parts here, we will not have that product transfer taking place, and then you'll actually have the product in the cylinder freeze, get too cold, we pull the handle down and nothing will dispense out of the machine. As always, when you're putting your machine together, it's critical to inspect your O-rings. You want to check your O-rings, slide them through your fingers, and see if there's any nicks, cuts, anything damaged inside there. Anything damaged at that point that you would find, then just throw it away and get a new one. Always inspect your plastic parts. You want to look for any wear or damage. Parts do get dropped in the sink, and if anything was to get cracked or chipped here, then you'd want to get a new piston for that. This is the valve cap. So what's going to happen with this part here, we're going to regulate the air volume into the product with the machine. Your pump actually is going to deliver a percentage amount of product to a percentage amount of air into your product. This is called your overrun, your yield of your product. Again, we want to inspect the O-rings, and just by stretching this and pulling it through your fingers, you can feel if there's any damage done to that O-ring. You do not actually even need to look at it. This is your valve gasket. You always want to inspect your valve gasket as well. If you look inside of here, you see a little tab. There's 4 tabs holding each center port of that gasket into place. So what do you want to look for and see if any of those tabs are broken, just kind of push on them and see if anything looks broken in there. If any of those tabs are cut, you want to replace this valve gasket with a new one. If you continue to put a new one or a damaged one in there, you will have problems with your machine. This pump here is called a simplified pump, so pretty much everything goes together like a puzzle. If I do not install it correctly with this little tab right here to the hole that is not all the way through the part, if I try to put it in place to another hole, it won't stay on, it will fall right off. But installed correctly, it won't come off. So we put our O-rings on our pieces there. You also want to inspect the inside of your pump housing for any wear. Any deep grooves inside of here over a period of time, that's wear, and we actually are increasing the inside circumference of our pump housing. Therefore, as our piston's running up and our O-rings on there, you won't get a good seal, therefore we're not going to pump the correct volume of product. Lubricating your pump, we do not want to put lubricant on any of the parts other inside the pump housing. So about 1/4 to 1/2 inch of lube on your finger, and we're going to start with the bottom end. So as you can see, this is a tapered end on here, that's the bottom end of the pump. Go around inside the housing, about as far up as your finger can go inside there. Put a thin film of lubricant on there. We're going to take the piston and run the piston up inside and push that in. Now whatever lubricant that O-ring needed to have, it grabbed, and now that sidewall's clean again. So I need to put a little bit more lube on. And then I'm going to take the valve cap into the mix inlet fitting. And again, like I said, a puzzle. So we have the rounded end here and the tall piece. Those two pieces will go and match up together and press in. Then we'll take this bottom piece. It's going to match up inside the pump housing. Never hit your part. Just kind of work it and work it into place. If you tap on the part like that to get it in past that O-ring, you can cut or damage the O-ring, and now you're going to have a problem with your pump. I'm going to take a keeper pin, drop that down into place. Now everything inside the pump is assembled. Like we have the drive shaft in the cylinder, we also have the pump drive shaft. There's 2 O-rings for this on the shaft. Run those O-rings down. We have the large O-ring that's going around the pump sleeve. This also is going to get lubricated. So again, we go down around the shaft and the 2 O-rings. And then we wanted to put around the O-ring on the ball crank. This lubricant, Taylor Lube, is a vegetable oil-based lubricant. So if any of this lubricant does get on the outside of a part or anywhere where there's a product, it's a vegetable base, so it's an edible lubricant. The pump shaft is going to go up into the hopper of the machine. So we're looking like up in here at the top. So we take the shaft, and feel it snap into place. One special tool for your machine, if you have a pump style unit, to retrieve this pump shaft out of the shell bearing back here, it's very difficult to grab onto because the lubricant creates a suction inside of there. You do not want to take a pair of pliers and grab this ball here on the pump shaft to pull it out, because we can embed grooves on the side of this, and then it creates a file effect on the plastic pieces inside the pump. That's where this tool comes in handy. All we're going to do is we're going to take the little fork and put it over the ball of the pump, like so. And I'm going to push down on this and it pulls it and pops it right out. So it makes it very easy to remove that pump shaft for cleaning. Next step is to install the pump itself up in the top. So what I want to try to do is pre-align the piston groove up in here that's going to go actually on the ball end of the pump shaft. And then take the pump housing and we'll match up onto the ball crank. Take the locking pin, slide that down in. Now everything is assembled into the pump. So after everything's assembled in the machine, even though we've sanitized, washed, and rinsed all our parts, we have to sanitize the machine before we put the actual product into it. Anything that makes contact with the product must be sanitized before you put your product into it. So this is our mixed feed tube. What this tube's going to do is it will transfer the product out of the pump down into the freezing cylinder. This is a little cotter pin that will actually go into this hole here and lock that all into place once we assemble it. But this is all again going to be in the area with the product, so we need to sanitize this. I do have a bucket of sanitizer already made up. So the sanitizer that you want to use is a Sterashine. This is a sanitizer and a cleaner. That's your prime usage for sanitizer. Anything that's not a cleaner in it will sanitize, but your dairy product gets what they call milkstone in it and creates a film in all your parts. The cleaning agency in your sanitizer and cleaner works on cleaning every time you sanitize your machine. It's a 2-gallon bucket of water, and in this specific jar here there is a pre-measured scoop that comes in there for that 2-gallon bucket of water. You want to mix that with a lukewarm water so the powder dissolves very well. As the machine's filling up with sanitizer, now we're going to use our clean blue brush, and we're going to use that to get that sanitized water up around the hopper walls and up in the pump area. Like so. And we're going to come down to the front of the machine. Going into our modes of operation on this machine here is the snowflake is our auto mode, the mode you're going to use for freezing your product down and serving product to your customers. The little spigot is the wash mode. When we activate the wash mode, all we're going to do is turn the beater inside there, agitating the product or the water to dispense and sanitize. The little snowflake here and the far right end is for our pump operation back here. So when we go to sanitize, we're actually going to want to turn it into the wash mode. Now we're turning the product or the water inside the cylinder itself. Then we're going to activate the pump to actually run the pump and get sanitized water through the pump. You'll see water coming out of our And a little note, you should always see that kind of a volume of water coming out of your pump. If the water is only coming out to a stream about this far, something in the pump is not correct. And I would suggest that you take it apart and look at it at that time before we fill it up with product. Your normal time for running your sanitizer is going to be about 3 to 5 minutes. And we would want to run the sanitizer through all the ports of the door. So we have the prime plug that's up underneath here. We want to lift that up. We also have the draw valve for the cylinder opening here. And on this machine you have your twist port. So So we don't want to get water going through that port to sanitize everything on the door like it should. As we drain that out, we're going to go up the glove so we don't recontaminate any of our parts. Just take our mix tube, set that off to the side, and then pull our pin, set that off to the side, so we're ready, now able to prime the machine with the product. We'll let it run in the wash mode until we get almost all the water we get out of it. I'm also going to kick the pump back on again just to make sure I clean all the sanitized water out of the pump. And once we clean all the water out there, we'll go ahead and shut the pump back off. Now we pretty much, for the most part, have as much water as we're going to be able to get out of the machine. So we can go ahead and close the draw valves off and cancel the wash mode. Next thing we're going to do is we'd be ready to prime this with product and get our machine started up. So a lot of people will re-rinse the machine out thinking they need to get their sanitized water out of the machine. If you run regular clean water through the machine, you just added bacteria back to your machine. So how we chase out that extra water in the cylinder, everything's off in the machine. We're going to pull the handle down, and as I pour the mix in, you'll see water and a milky water and a full strength of mix come out the bottom of the door spout. It will happen fairly quick, so you don't need to drain a lot of product off. There's our water, and there's our full strength mix. So now I close that off, and I've now gotten rid of all my extra sanitized water in the machine. Now we're priming the barrel, so we have this prime plug lifted, and as we get a good stream of mix like this, we're properly filled in the barrel and push the prime plug down. Now, one thing you want to do on a pump machine, if this was a gravity fed, we'd just put our mixed feed tube